babbling. I'm Morgan. I run marketing here over at Rainbow. And yeah, any sort of, I don't know what I just said that was so funny, Brian, but I'm glad. Oh, is that really talking to Jason?
It's us. There's just a delay. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry.
I was like, what did they say? Oh.
We should probably get to work, guys.
Yeah, let's
yeah, we should.
Let's roll through the intros and then we'll go to Jason. Naomi?
Oh,
No,
Oh,
Adrian?
Want me to start? I'll start.
Sure.
My name is Naomi Brown. I am an agency success manager here at Rainbow. So yeah, we're obviously the best team here. We have the most fun. We are definitely the funniest. And we're here to help. So if you chat in, you're likely going to get one of us, well, Mickey, Jason, or myself. And so you're going to get to have some interaction with us. We love supporting our agents. It's something that I really love about Rainbow. We actually still believe that the human support is important on top of our awesome tech that we have that makes it easy for agencies. So there you go. That's what I'm here for.
Quick plug for Adrian's sake. Adrian is not on our team, although he's an honorary member, and you might see him on chats from time to time. So
We're trying to win him over. All right, it's not over.
yeah. Oh no, you need. I don't think you want me to completely win over. I think. So to be clear, hi, I'm Adrian. I'm one of the underwriters here at Rainbow. So you might see me responding to your emails. We might get to talk on the phone from time to time. I'm here making sure that your referrals get approved and taking a look and seeing what I could do to make those prices work. Fingers crossed, and also, all that good stuff. So I'm here to help answer any questions about our underwriting and all that good stuff. Not that Jason, Naomi, and Mickey don't know about our underwriting. They know tons about underwriting, but just from a little bit different perspective.
Yeah.
And I'm based out of the East Coast as well. I'm in Massachusetts. But we don't write yet. Makes me very sad.
Soon, I think. Probably not. Soon.
Oh, not California. Well, what's it? What are the others? New York first, then maybe Massachusetts.
Mickey, you want to say hi? Oh, nope.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mickey Roberts. I am your I hear like a lot of pings here, so I apologize if you guys are on here and I'm trying to message you. I'm your agency experience manager. Like they mentioned, I will be helping you guys with your chat questions, endorsements. Some of you I see in the chat already. I just spoke with you. I see Mo. What's up, Mo? See a lot of familiar names in here now that I talked to you all week and last week. I like to do throughout the webinar, like I give out imaginary cookies. So if you have great questions that are applied to Rainbow, I will be throwing you some imaginary cookies. These are not just any cookies. These cookies are great. If your health level is low, they'll make your health level all the way to the top. It's really great stuff. So ask your questions in the chat. I'll keep a look at that. Hey, Mo.
Fat free too. That's the best kind. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mickey. My bad. Okay.
You're fine. You do it all the time. I'm used to it.
I'm sorry. We're gonna have to make sure that this is okay offline. All right. So my name is Jason. I'm agency success with all these wonderful people too. So I am going to hop right in. Before I start sharing my screen, I just want to do a really quick overview for any of you who might be brand new or anything like that. So Rainbow is for restaurants. That's what we love to write and what we're really good at as well. So we've created a really robust product that fits great in the restaurant space that hopefully can cover everything that it is that your insured would need. We are structured as an MGA, which means that we look and do everything just like a carrier would, with one main exception. Accelerant is our writing partner, and they carry the reserves on the policies, right? So they are A- excellent rated AM Best, size 9. And many of you probably already know who they are because they've been around in the market for quite some time and made a really good name for themselves. So we're really proud to be one of their programs. But yeah, Rainbow for restaurants. That's how we always want you to think of us. Okay, so all admitted too. I don't know if I mentioned that, but all admitted in the market as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen. Let's do that. Okay. All right, so what you're looking at here is our demo environment. So this will allow you to see me as a Rainbow employee who's not actually an agent for Rainbow, to kind of show you what it's like for you to log in and go through all the paces. It should be basically exactly the same. If I come across any hiccups, it might be because of the demo environment. I'll point that out. But for the most part, this is exactly what it'll look like. Once you've been writing with us for a little while, this is the screen that'll pop right up for you, and you've got lots of policies already all set up in here. One of the things that we recently made a change to is to show that payment overdue here, this nice big red button, just so that you're flagged immediately as an agent when you sign in that, hey, we're missing a payment for something. So you can help out the insured and make sure that that all gets squared away. So when you go into these policies, the way that you can access these policies is with this little arrow over here on the right. So we're lining up, we want Jamie Hank, this action button over here. And then that's going to show us some overview, some small details about the policy. But it's also going to give you a chance to download the policy documents, to request an endorsement, to start the file a claim process with our third-party claims adjuster, NARS, North American Risk Services. Many of you may already know about them, like Accelerant. They've been around for a while. They're pretty well known and well liked. And they've been a fantastic partner for us. So just know that your claims for your insureds are in good hands with NARS, and this is where you can start your FNOL. There's also instructions on your policy documents as well. Like we go in here, and if I was to download it, you would see the very first page is claims instructions. If you want to request an endorsement, you start that process here with this, and it carries you over to a form with all the information that it is that we need. So make sure you're adding some ticket description in there if there's something specific we need to know about it. But you know, just about all of us on this call regularly have interacted with your endorsements as well. You know, whether Adrian is underwriting them because there's some you know, change in exposures, or you know, Naomi, Mickey, or myself are just processing them for you. So we see these. It is people who are taking care of it. So just make sure you add the notes in and what it is that you need us to do, and know that we'll have it to you within the next couple of days. All right, and then hopefully even faster. We try to keep up with it same day, but that's our turnaround, is give us a couple days. All right, so settings is pretty straightforward. Change your name, change your email, change your password, that kind of thing. Resources is something that we always love to take a moment to kind of point out for you, because there's so much good stuff in here, right? All kinds of stuff for your insureds, whether they're getting started and they want some like closing checklists, cooking temps, that kind of thing. Stuff for your agency, if you want to, you know, pick Morgan's brain without talking directly to Morgan. Morgan put together this simple SEO strategy for your agency. And there's lots of other stuff in here as well that will help out with your agency. But then the two that I like to point out more than anything is our appetite guide, of course. It's going to be incredibly helpful. And I'm not going to sit here and go through all of it, because you can see it's nice and dense, but we keep this up to date. We got lots of good information in here about what we can and cannot write, like what our different classifications mean, like what is fine dining example, as an example, you know, can we do hookah bars? Those are ineligible, those sort of things, right? So definitely make a point to check this out, because there's lots of good stuff in here. And then our NFPA cheat sheet. I am just going to point this out for a moment, because we're going to come back to this later as we go through the quoting process, right? So this will show us some different inspection and cleaning schedule stuff. It's going to be part of the quoting process, and I'll come back to this and show you what that is. All right, so when you're ready to start a brand new quote, you're going to click this big green Start a New Quote button, right? And right away it's asked whether you want single location or multi-location. This is a brand new feature for us, so you may see some changes to it here soon as we grow and we adapt. One of the things that you might hear me mention a couple times throughout this presentation today is that we love your feedback, right? So as you use this, if there's another way for us to articulate this to you, to make it more streamlined, like, we'd love to hear that, because we are for the independent agent. We do not write anything direct at all. We strictly work through the independent agency. So you are our customer. We want to make this the best possible for you, right? So that said, our policy is kind of, you know, all of our online quoting platform is for single location only. So if you have more than 5 risks, you can go to this more than 5 locations on your risk. You can go to this multi-location submission, and you'll get the details about that, about, you know, how this is for 5 or fewer separate locations. You want to submit that as individual instead. This is what it is that we're looking for in order to submit it, right? And the reason that we do that only for more than 5 is because it's a bit more of a time-consuming process. It's manual. It's not this online quoting platform that I'm about to show you. But we realize that there's so many awesome risks out there that have more than 5 locations, and you as an agent don't want to sit down and key in 200 different locations. But we can still consider that. So we created this temporary stopgap in order to make sure that we can still meet you in the middle with these, and then just look for some growth from us as time goes on about having this more integrated into our online platform as well. But for now, even if you have a restaurant with several locations, if it's less than 5, you can go through this process as single location and input each of them individually. And that's what I'm going to show you today. All right, so the very first screen is basic information. It's one of the only screens that you cannot edit once you've started. Just reach out to us through chat. As mentioned earlier, Mickey, Naomi, myself, Adrian. Sometimes I think that Morgan even feels left out, and they've offered to hop on chats from time to time. So you never know, you might run into Morgan too. We're all here. We're all ready to help you out on chats. If you need any of this stuff edited after you've already put it in, just let us know and we can make adjustments to everything except for the location address. And I won't get into the details. You can ask if you're curious, but really what it is that we use a third-party data service to get information on the location, and we do that right when you click this continue button. But if we edit that address later on, it doesn't update, right? So we can make some changes that are, cosmetic in nature, I guess you might say, like if you had a typo or if you need to put a suite number on. Those are changes that we can make, but if it's a completely different physical location, it just needs to be requoted. And that's it. And you'll see as we go through this, I talk a lot, so it's going to take us a few minutes longer, but really it's like a 10-minute process to go through and quote this. So it's really not too bad. All right, but in order to save some of that talking, I am actually going to hop into a quote that already has some stuff finished. But before I do that, I want to show you our quote screen. There's a lot of really useful information here, right? So we'll start with the easiest one. Draft is a quote that has been started, but has not yet been finished. That means that it's missing some information. So all you do is you'll click that arrow to hop back into it and add what's missing in order to keep it going. If it's expired, note that our quotes are good for 60 days. Our submissions are good for 60 days. And you all are probably familiar with it. That's a pretty standard practice so that we don't have quotes that just live out there in perpetuity. In case there's ever any changes, like, the quote just doesn't live on forever, right? So, but if it's a few days past that, you just need it to be unlocked because it's been 62 days or something, reach out to us through that chat feature. Again, we can help you out with that. But otherwise, if it's been 3 months, 4 months, it's probably best if you just go ahead and requote it. All right, so then we also have this action required refer now, and then there's also a status for referred, right? So the difference between those two is that as you go through the quoting process, you can, beginning to end, create a quote that is ready to be bound, and you never have to speak to a single one of us. Hopefully by now you realize how fun and friendly we all are, but yes, thank you. Sometimes it's easier to just go through and get it all done, and then you'll reach out to us later when you have some time, right? However, we have a system that is very flexible. It can be bent and broken in a number of ways so that we can meet you and your insured where you need to. And one of those ways is that our appetite guide, which I showed you earlier, is not always a hard and fast rule. A lot of times it is, that's why we put it together, but we can make exceptions because we realize that every risk is unique. And sometimes that gets flagged as you go through the process, right? So for instance, this one is referral because it's a high crime area based on some of the data calls that we've had. But we've had a number of agents reach out and say like, hey, I've dealt with this before, it's inaccurate, this is actually a really nice part of town, et cetera. And then, you talk to an underwriter and we go ahead and approve it and you're on your way. But just so that you know, until you click that refer now button, no matter what the cause is, an underwriter is not going to be looking at this, right? And so there's a couple of different reasons that we do that. We want you to be prepared and ready to have that conversation with the underwriting team so that we can get this done and ready for you and your insured. That said, you know, sometimes you go through and you make a quote and you know that you're not ready for that step yet. You want to go to the insured, you want to double check some different stuff. You want to make sure you wanted to just get a price so that you can see how we fit in the market on a particular risk. So all of that is available to you, and you don't have to submit it over to us until you click that Refer Now button. Okay, but it's very important to note that if you just leave it in this status, nobody internally is going to be looking at it, because we're just going to assume that you still have some things that you want to do on your end. However, once you click that, it goes into that referred status where within the next 1 to 2 business days, almost always, we're still people. It's a human team that's reviewing it. So if we get a little backed up, it might take just slightly longer, but we get back to you as quick as we can. And Adrian or someone else from his team will be reviewing that risk. And they'll either email you right away and say, hey, we reviewed this and everything's great on our end. It is bindable. And they'll set that status up for you so you don't have to do anything else. Or they'll come back and they'll have a couple of questions like, hey, can you explain this to us? Whatever the case may be, you work with them through it. And then hopefully we've got a bindable quote there at the end of that, you know, we can write with you and you're insured. So you can go through the process beginning to end, get that bindable, whether it's referred and it comes back bindable. This is the ultimate goal right here, is that it is a bindable Bravo Italian Kitchen. So we're going to go ahead and click into that here, and we're going to go back to the beginning of the process so you can kind of see us go through it. We've got a number of different questions as we go through the quote process, but as Naomi and Morgan and I think everybody else pointed out, interrupt me. I don't mind at all. Ask all the questions that you need. I'm going to kind of give an overview of some things so that we're not sitting here for too long going over all of this stuff. So that may mean that I missed something that you're interested in. By all means, ask the question. Okay, so this is how it is that we classify the food service. So Rainbow for restaurants, right? All the different restaurants, this is how we classify them. Almost all of these are open for us. Some of them are a referral. For instance, if it's a wine bar or fine dining, Adrian and his team want to check it out just to make sure that it meets those underwriting guidelines of actually qualifying for a fine dining, because we give it a special rating price, those sort of things. But note that, you know, we do offer brew pubs now. The main difference between that and one of our full service is just that they brew on site, right? But we are not a home for bars and taverns, nor are we a home for mobile food vendors or food manufacturers, right? So some of that is pretty straightforward. The mobile food vendors, if it is a permanent, we get this every once in a blue moon. If it is a permanent location, as in the food truck never moves, we can still consider that. If it is ancillary to a brick and mortar where you've got the food truck business placed elsewhere, but you want us on the brick and mortar, they just happen to have that too, we can look at that. We just don't have the coverages that they would need to actually cover the food truck itself, right? So that's why that's not in appetite for us, but we still include it in this list, because if we didn't, we get all kinds of questions about like, well, how do I class a food vendor? But if you do select that, just note that you will get a declination. And that's the reason why. We just don't have the coverages for it. And then with bar and tavern, we actually have what I like to think anyway, and hopefully you all agree, is a kind of unique way of looking at this. I've worked for a number of carriers in the past who, if you just have the word bar in the name, it's immediately out. We're not interested, right? But we look at it a little bit different. So Jason's Bar and Grill might still be a restaurant that we're interested in quoting and offering a policy on. And I'll show you how it is that we actually classify a bar instead of just simply going, okay, well, what are their alcohol sales? Is bar in the name, right? So yeah, you'll select your different types. We can do bakeries, we can do coffee shops, we can do full-blown restaurants, all kinds of food. If they're serving food, they're making food. We love working with them. All right, so we're going to set this to casual so it doesn't flag me. All right, and then multiple locations. This is what I talked about earlier. If they do have several, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll quote each of them individually. It'll just take a few moments to go through each of those, but you will still select yes, because we're going to put the designated premises operations endorsement on there, just so that we know that this policy is dedicated to this location, and then the other one's dedicated to that. They'll have their own limits and everything. So it actually winds up being, you know, a decent setup in a lot of cases, but just know that that's what that's there for. Any claims in the last 3 years, as long as they've had less than 50,000 in total. If you know, you need to reach out to us and ask any questions, if it's coming close to that border, if it's like, well, this had nothing to do with the insured, like we get all kinds of stories, and many of them make sense. And we still want to review that risk. So reach out to Adrian and his team, even if it doesn't perfectly fit that box. But know that that's our general guideline, is 50,000 or less in the last 3 years. Is the business owner a criminal? We can skip that one. That's pretty straightforward. You're going to see a number of questions like this where it's like, does the establishment have stairs? If you select yes, then you get a whole brand new drop down just to make sure that all the safety guidelines are being followed, right? It's not an exclusion by any means. We just want to make sure that they've got handrails, slip resistant surfaces, that kind of thing, right? So we'll select no. Here is how we determine whether or not it's a bar. All right, so I referenced this just a moment ago. Do they have a happy hour between 8 p.m. and close? Are they serving liquor between midnight and 5 a.m.? Do they have drink specials under $4? Do they have bouncers? Do they have live concerts with 3 or more performers, right? We're really trying to get to know the risk and understand, is this actually a restaurant that just has bar in the name or has high alcohol sales because they sell expensive drinks? Or is this truly a bar, right? And that's what these questions go to serve. Now, there's always exceptions to these, just like everything else. We're very proud of our flexible system and our ability to work with you as an agent and your risk, right? So if they're in the middle of nowhere town where it's very rural and all of their food is under $10, their drinks are probably going to be under $4 too, right? So in that case, like, you just reach out to us and let us know. And even though you've checked this box, you might get a referral because you checked one of these, you might get a declination. We'd still love to hear that story, and we'd still love to work it out with you because we may still be a great home. Another one that we regularly get asked is, can you do 24-hour operations? And we can, right? So we're obviously going to scrutinize a number of different things about that. But one of the things is just that we want to make sure they don't serve alcohol between midnight and 5 a.m. And then we could potentially write them, right? So you can see how with all of this, like if they have karaoke, we're okay with it. We just don't want them to have more than 3 performers. So we're really doing our best to get to know the risk and properly offer something and not just blanket shut it down because of some base level itemization about it. All right, so is there a playground on the premises? Is the same as the stairs? We're going to say no. It's okay if there is. We just want to make sure that all the safety stuff is in place. Any of the following exposures, we're checking for that food cart again, the food truck. Ghost kitchens we can write. You might have heard them called commissaries as well. So if you have any questions about those, reach out by any means, but we can consider ghost kitchens and commissaries. Let's see here. Fire alarm, burglar alarm, security cameras. We're going to skip all that. 60 fat fryers. That's easy enough to answer. Responsible for the parking lot? Yes or no. It's just a rating question. Okay, so here we are at something that I pointed out to you earlier. Are the following types of cooking performed? Restaurants in the United States should be following the National Fire Protection Association, right? The NFPA, right? And that's something that as a restaurant, that's their entire livelihood, that's their business. They're all going to know that, or at least they all should know that, right? They should know the qualifications. They should know how to follow it. But us here in the insurance industry, there's no reason for us to necessarily know that. So we put together a quick cheat sheet for you so that you were aware of. There it is. Okay. If it's solid fuel, how does Rainbow define solid fuel? Is it, wood, charcoal, coal, that sort of thing? If that's the case, then they need to be cleaning monthly. Is it wok cooking? Then it's quarterly cleaning. Is it charbroiling? Then it's quarterly, right? So we put this cheat sheet together so that you as an agent can be aware and know what it is that's needed for this risk, but they should probably already know that stuff too, and they should be cleaning us accordingly. So you can see how these two tie together, right? If it's, one of those, then they should correspondingly be cleaning at least that much as well. All right. So definitely check out that cheat sheet. Keep it on hand. It's super helpful. I still use it all the time. Are there any remodeling or renovation projects planned? That's okay. We have a bot product and an excess product. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a moment, but we don't have an inland marine product, right? So we're not going to be on your builder's risks. We're not going to be looking for, down to the studs kind of renovations. However, as long as it's, something is done within 90 days, it's, facade-based stuff, like they need to have their insurance in place before their grand opening, and they're doing some work to get it finished before then. We're still a great home for all of that, right? So just check this stuff out, make sure that it still fits, but even if they're doing a bit of remodeling or renovation, that's perfectly okay. Cash only is a hard decline. Yeah, what's up?
Gonna Uno reverse card you and interrupt you here. So Peter had a question in the chat. How many steps count as stairs? That's my sign, guys. As stairs. Some establishments have 2 or 3 steps leading to a separate area. So it's a stair question that Peter had in the chat.
Yeah, and that's a great question. Because you wouldn't think like how many stairs count as a stair. I would say that even 2 or 3 would count as stairs, because really what we're looking for there is stairs tend to be your big, the easiest ways where you get slip and fall risk. 1 step, that's fine. I'm not going to make you go in and tell me that you've got you know, railings and stuff for your 1-step. But 2, 3 steps, we want to see that things are okay there. If you have a reason where it's like, you know, maybe it's an older building, you don't have these things set up, or you don't have all of those things set up, reach out. We'll see what we could do. If you got photos of it, that's even better. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking about it, just as something where, you know, that stairs are always the place where grandma, you know, if she's not holding on to someone, could slip and break her hip.
Oh,
And
grandma.
that's poor grandma. But those are always like sort of the areas of concern when it comes to that sort of thing. Again, not a hard no, but let's have a conversation with it.
Yeah, this is what it's like to work with an underwriter. They're always doing something to your grandma. It's sad.
I can do it to grandpa. Do you want me to do it to
It's
grandpa
not, it's
instead?
just as bad. I mean, no, that's great. Thank you very much, Adrian. I'm glad that you're here to answer those questions. And is it fair to say that it kind of sounds like, you know, we more or less follow what like regulation would be anyway? If they have 2 or 3 stairs, they probably regulation wise need to have a handrail anyway.
Generally, yeah, that's going to be kind of your rule of thumb. You know, there's a lot of sort of different regulations depending on age of building, you know, when it's built, you know, God knows ADA, some buildings have, you know, were built after and are very strict on it. Some have to amend things afterwards. So it's really sort of about stuff like that. And there are certainly cases if, you know, it's like 2 half steps or something that have good like slip cut, you know, non-slip coverage on them where it's like, okay, maybe we can make that work.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Great question. Keep them coming, y'all. Cash only, that's a hard decline for us. We're just looking to make sure that they have like a point of sale system and that they're, you know, keeping track of their transactions that sort of way. So cash only is not going to have that, obviously. Full-time employees, part-time, number of average hours, what year did the establishment open? Okay, we're going to skip ahead to that one. If it is a brand new business, Rainbow's still a great home for it, right? We're just going to have a new question that pops up for you that says, does the management have at least 3 years experience in managing food service establishments? If the answer is yes, we're good to go. We'd love to write them still. So just kind of keep that in mind. New establishments, still great for Rainbow. Ownership structure, maximum occupancy, all that straightforward. We're going to keep on going. All right, so for the liability questions, we can write, so all of our policies are rated off of sales, not square footage. I don't know if anybody in the market still, I think there's some that still do square footage restaurants, but it seems like it's dying off. Yeah, I know. I make the same face when I hear about it, Adrian. But yes, we are sales-based rating, and we can do up to 10 mil per location in sales, right? So pretty decent sized restaurants. For a per location, 10 mil in sales is pretty large. So you can still consider us for a good number of your risks. Our GL liability limits, we can do 1-2 is our cap in-house. And this is usually where I try to take a moment to show you our state availability, and you'll see why here in just a moment. So we're in about half the United States, right? These blue states are some of the ones where we're still looking to go here, hopefully soon, filed with the state DOIs, we're waiting on responses, that kind of thing. But we also have this excess product that is in most states as well, right? If we offer the excess products, anything above those 1-2 GL limits would need to be placed on our excess product, right? In those states, particularly California comes up the most because, you know, it's certainly a larger state, but you can see Virginia's on that list too. Like in those states, we can offer 2-4 limits since we do not yet have an excess product. Once we roll out the excess, 2-4 will no longer be available, but just note that's why it is that you see that in there. We can do up to 2-4 in those states where there is no excess, right? And yeah, give us a little bit of extra time if you ask for that. There's going to be some questions that pop up, like why is it that we specifically need this? And we're looking to make sure that, you know, we're matching expiring as required for a contract, that kind of thing, because we have to go to Accelerant for approval on those 2-4 risks. So just give us a little bit of extra lead time with those, and know that we'll be back and forth with Accelerant, and then we'll get back to you on that. But that's only available in those states where we don't have excess. Otherwise, here at the end of the quote process, you'll see how you can you know, request a quote for excess too. Off-premises catering. This is one of the ways in which Rainbow stands out a lot in the market. We can do up to 100% catering, which is pretty uncommon. So your caterers, we'd love to see them. Just make sure that you fill out all the stuff accordingly. But we're going to say that this risk does not have catering. All right. Does the establishment serve alcohol or beer? Here, we're going to hit it back to back. Another one big selling point for Rainbow is that we offer liquor liability on liquor sales up to 65%. That's in the admitted market, right? So we have a very broad appetite for restaurants. And this will, kind of tie back to our description of what bars were earlier and our explanation that like we're really trying to understand your risk. We don't want to just toss them out on their face because of some blanket overview of how much alcohol sales or whether bar is in the name, right? We want to get to know them, and up to 65% can still be a great restaurant that just happens to have very pricey drinks, right? Or maybe it's a wine bar that we're still interested in that serves some, like cheese and meat platters and some various other cold type dishes. Like, and so they've got those higher alcohol sales, but they still have a kitchen. They still have food that they're selling. We're still interested in being a home for those things. So just know that we can do up to 65%. And another really great feature of Rainbow is that up to 50% in alcohol sales, we automatically include assault and battery, right? As soon as you go over 50% in alcohol sales, you have the option to still add it on. So it is still available. You'd have to select to add it. You'd have to add the limits. But just know that, prior to that, any amount less than 51% is just automatically included. So another great reason to place your restaurants with Rainbow. Do you want liquor liability coverage? Yeah, go
We
ahead.
got some questions coming in.
All right.
I got Taylor. If we have a risk that is a possible restaurant with live music, can we reach out to an underwriter to review their website to see if they're eligible?
Absolutely. So our big thing with live music is if there are cases where it's if it's incidental, like you've got your restaurant and they've got a guy who comes in and plays jazz guitar in the background, or like a small 3-piece band or something like that. Basically, something where it's atmosphere for the restaurant. People aren't getting up and dancing or anything like that. You're not a music venue, stuff like that. Absolutely can take a look. We have made exceptions for those 100%.
Fantastic. I got one from, I'm saying this right, Janice. I think I helped you yesterday. Is liquor liability available in New Mexico with you or with us?
Mhm.
Fantastic.
If we are writing Bob, we are writing liquor liability.
Beat me to it.
All right, that's all we got. Proceed.
All right. Thank you for that. Yeah, awesome questions. Keep them coming. Okay, so if we're offering liquor liability, we just want to make sure that they're staying safe with the various different things, following procedures of ServSafe and their liquor licenses in good standing, that kind of thing. Our liquor liability limit is separate from our GL limit. Just note that we have these options: 1, 3, 500,000 or 1 mil. But that is a separate limit for liquor liability. All right, and then hired and non-own. We can offer that on all of our risks except the ones that do self-delivery, right? So if it's self-delivery, it is not a home. You'll get that little pop-up, no self-delivery, so that you're acknowledging that that's the case. But we can offer HNOA. Now, if it is a restaurant that has self-delivery, we'd still love to write them. We just can't write the HNOA. That's the only thing. And then third-party delivery is perfectly fine. We don't want robotic delivery, but whether they do no delivery at all, they have third-party, as long as they're not doing self-delivery or robotic, then we're good. We're good. All right, on to the next one. Okay, different construction types. If you ever have any question about this, reach out. We're happy to help you out, but just know that all of these are open. A frame building is open, fire all the way down to fire resistive. We can consider any of the constructed types. What year was the building built? This is also just a rating question. This is to help us get to know the risk a little bit better. We can accept older buildings. We want to make sure that they're not on the historical registry, which I just learned last week. Thank you, Adrian. But I'm always learning something new from you, buddy. Otherwise, like, the age doesn't necessarily matter. What we're actually checking on here is when the roof was last replaced, the electrical wiring, or the plumbing, when it was last taken care of. So what we're looking for is, was the roof replaced within the last 20 years? If it's non-metal, right? So down here, you're going to get, please select the roof coverage type. If it's metal, it's up to 30 years. And then if it's non-metal, it's 20 years. And then for the electrical wiring and the plumbing, we're looking that they were updated within the last 25, right? So there's always, something going on from time to time where, like, the insured leases a place and they're not able to get a hold of that kind of stuff. So, you would reach out to Adrian and work with him on, whether or not they've had an inspection that says that it's up to code or some other way to help us be comfortable with the fact that everything is good. But just know that our general our general appetite is 25 years for updates on electrical wiring and plumbing. Fire sprinkler system is a rating question. We can still write it even if it doesn't have a fire sprinkler, but it will depend on it certainly will take a factor into the rating. Total square area, BPP limits. Okay, so we can do up to 5 mil in total insured value. So that's between the BPP and the building coverage. So if I was to select yes, you're going to get some pop-up questions that are like, how much is the RC, the full RC on the building? Do you want to add mine subsidence in these specific states, ordinance and law coverages, all of that? And combined with BPP, as long as it's under 5 mil, then we can still consider it. In most cases, though, restaurants tend to lease the spaces. I think that's the case. More often than not, anyway. They tend to lease. Yeah, I don't know. It changes all the time. Thanks, Adrian. But if that's the case, then you have an option to add in tenants improvements and betterments, right? So we're not necessarily concerned whether you put it under BPP or TIB. But TIB is a little bit better of a rate. So in most cases, that's probably where it is that you're going to want to put your improvements and betterments. So this is our AOP deductible, or all other perils deductible. These are the different options that you have. Specifically, the one standout from that is the wind and hail, right? And here's where the quoting is just a little bit tricky. Using some of that data that we grabbed from that very early on, if you remember at the beginning of my presentation, this is how it is that we determine what the wind hail deductible should be as well. And whatever it is that we preset it to is the minimum that we can accept, right? So in this particular case, we said that it has to be at least 1%. If I was to select no separate deductible, I would get a declination for that reason, right? I can't do less than what it is preset at, but I can offer 2%, 5%, or remove wind hail altogether. So if this had come through and it had said 5%, then I would be able to do 5% or X wind hail, but I could not select 2, 1, or no separate, right? So if you have any questions about that, please ask. Just know that whatever it is set as when you first go through this quote process is the baseline. And then you can, increase that if you need to. Any of the following for the establishment, these are mostly rating questions. The big one that we get asked about pretty regularly is it attached to HAB? Can you still write it? We're not going to write the habitational portion of it, but we do want to go above and beyond and make sure that there's at least a firewall between the restaurant, that it is the owner or the GM who resides in that habitational, right? So as long as the answer is yes to one of those two, then we can still consider it. All right. On to the fun stuff. So we have a Premier package like most folks out there do, and there's a lot of additional stuff that comes with it. I'm not going to take the time to kind of go through all this because there's a bunch of different stuff, but you can see what's included in our base versus what's included in our Premier. And there's a lot of really great stuff that you're going to want to add in for your insured. And what's kind of unique that we do that makes it even more special for restaurants is all of these things that we've identified are specifically important to restaurants. We've made them customizable as well. So know that even if you have Primary on or Premier, either way, you can still customize these individual ones, right? It doesn't matter whether you've added the Premier or not. So outdoor signs, spoilage, tenants liability, all these things we've identified as being important to restaurants. So we want to make sure that you can fully cater to your individual restaurant's needs. And I'll show you how that comes across. If you select no, you'll get an option to add equipment breakdown coverage. If you select yes, that option goes away and instead replaces with wine collection coverage. That's because equipment breakdown coverage is included in the Premier. So if you're wondering, like, how do I add EBC on? Most of the time it's because you added the Premier on and it's already there. You don't have to worry about it. But we have EBC is offered through a third party as well as CyberSuite and EPLI, Employment Practices Liability, right? And they're through some really well-known carriers in the market. Our cyber and EPLI comes from Hartford Steedman Boiler, right? And our EBC comes from Mutual Boiler Re. So these are names that I wouldn't be shocked if every single one of you recognize. They've been around for quite some time and they're very well known and respected. So these are some great coverages that they give us an option to add as part of our package, and it's all seamless, right? It'll all appear, it's their forms that'll appear on the package, but you go through and you fill out the questions that it is that they need to know for cyber or EPLI, whatever the case may be, and it's all there included in one. Here is where you would customize those limits that I mentioned earlier from the Premier. You could select yes, and then you go through and you have an option to change any number of these down here. There's obviously a whole bunch, so make sure that if your insured is interested in additional limits beyond what the Premier asks or wants to customize it in some way, just check that out. It's some really great stuff. Additional interest. This is a super easy screen because you should add it to all of them. Blanket AI, blanket waiver of subrogation. We don't charge for it. We don't write contractors. We know that you need like 1 or 2 at the most ever. So adding a blanket on is not a big deal for us. You should add it on every single one of them because we don't charge. Would you like to schedule any other additional interest? If somebody needs to see their name specifically though, you get the option here and you can do that pre-bind or post-bind. It doesn't matter which way. You'd reach out to Mickey, Naomi, myself. We can help you out with it post-bind if you need to. Just add it pre-binds, no charge either way. Lots and lots of discounts too, right? So I've always been told that there's 3 ways that you can sell insurance. You can sell it off of product, you can sell it off of service, and you can sell it off of pricing. And you can only do 2 of those 3. You can never have all 3. Well, what's important to us, and we hope that we convey that to you, is that we've got a very robust product and that we're here. You're seeing our faces, you're interacting with all of us all day because we love to take care of you and your insureds. That's why we're in this business, right? So where does that leave us with pricing? Well, I mean, we may not always be the best in the market right out of the gate, but we offer you lots of opportunities to add discounts so that we can still meet competition. And even if these discounts are not enough, I'll show you how you can ask for even more, right? So are they a part of an association, a Google business profile? Are they part of a franchise? All of these things are items that we believe merit an additional discount for your restaurant. There are additional credits, like if they have less employee turnover, like if they're members of different organizations, right? So all of that stuff, make sure you check it all out and that you apply everything that's appropriate. And even if all of that's on there or none of it's on there, and you want some additional credits, this is my favorite question as we go through the entire thing. And the reason is that this is something that I wish that every carrier did, because I've always been on the service side. I've always managed agency relationships, and this cuts down on so much back and forth. This helps us meet you where you need, right? Would you like to refer your submission to underwriting for additional pricing considerations? Let us know your target premium. Let us know the reasons why. And right out of the gate, if possible, Adrian and his team will try to hit that for you, right? We may come back with some questions if we need to, but honestly, you're already jumping in front of it by putting this in here. So I love this question. Make sure you're utilizing this every time you need to. Let us know your target price and we will do the best that we can. All right. We're almost there, y'all. Policy effective date is pretty straightforward. Just I'm going to make a call back to that 60 days. Just keep in mind, our quotes are only good for 60 days. If you need to requote, you can see it's a pretty straightforward process, pretty simple. But this won't even allow you to go more than 60 days out. So here, October 7th would be the 60-day mark. But just know that that's why. It's because they're only good for 60 days. And then payment plans, pretty straightforward. We can pay monthly, we can pay in full. Pay in full gets a 5% discount everywhere except for California. We tried. That's all I have to say about that. California didn't let us. That's all I got. But every other state, you get a 5% discount if you're paying full. Pay as you go is something that we will be offering down the road, and we're excited to bring to you. So I'll just give a very brief snippet of what it is. Many of you are going to recognize that this is something similar to work comp, right? Essentially what it does is it takes, where your insured would pay for premium either on a monthly basis at the beginning of the month or annually at the beginning of the term. Instead, it makes it, at the end of the month because pay as you go is a monthly thing. So then it would be at the end of the month and they send us sales figures and we adjust premium according to those, right? So what that does is it helps prevent, or it helps your insured with all the seasonality that restaurants go through, whether it's, the holiday season, whether it's, Mother's Day, or it's just the dead heat of summer when nobody's ever going out to a restaurant. Right? They're all grilling at home or something. It really helps out with that fluctuation. So they're only paying premiums according to what they're actually bringing in-house. And then it also cuts back that end of term audit too. So that'll be a nice little feature that we have. One of the big things that it is that we want to make sure is that we can integrate with all of those point of sale systems, those POS systems, like Toast, for instance, is one of the most well-known in it. They can send out an automatic sales report to folks so that we can just do that automatically. We don't have to reach out to you and you're insured every single month and follow up on those sales. So we're just making sure that we've got a nice tight offering before we get that, but we're excited to roll that out to you. All right, and then here we find ourselves at the end of the quoting process. And as I mentioned, we've gone through the whole thing. We haven't needed to talk to anybody. We've got some options too if we want to. We want to interact. We want some additional pricing considerations. We want some exceptions made. We can reach out to Adrian or the agency success team anytime. But here we've gone through the whole thing. We've got a bindable quote ready to go, right? We can see what the premium is. We can see some specifics of it. As if all of those discounts earlier were not enough, we have a Rainbow Rewards program where your insured would provide 5 photos of your hood and vent system, dining and bar, front entrance, restrooms, etc. And you would upload those. Adrian and his team would take a look at them, and you would get another up to 5% off of a discount, right? Here's where you can get your excess liability indication, right? Like I mentioned earlier, if you're in one of those states where we offer it, you would just go through and you would select the limits that it is that you want, answer just a couple of questions, hit that continue, and the underwriting team will get back to you with a quote on excess as well. And here, just note that this is an indication. You know, once we actually do the quoting process based off of your answers, you'll get a full actual dollar amount. This is just our best guess at what it could look like. And then the last thing to kind of point out to you is, well, I guess 2 last things. Here's our quote. If you want to download that, download quote PDF. It's 33 pages long. And the reason for that is that we list out everything and the pricing associated with it. I know this is tiny, so you just have to trust me. Get in there and make a quote for yourself so you can see it. But here you've got your liability, you've got your buildings, you've got everything and the price associated with it. You've also got a list of all of your different forms that get added to the policy, right? And then we go through a number of different payment options and various other things. And then at the very end, here's a list of all the questions that were asked as part of this process too, and the answers that were provided. So at the end of all of it, you can have your insured sign off and say, hey, I agree to all of these things. This is what I wanted. I agree to it. And then for your own E&O records, you can keep that in-house. Now, note, we do not ask you to send that to us. We wouldn't do anything with it. So we just provide this for your own E&O if you choose to collect it. If you don't want to collect it, then you can just ignore that page. And then the final thing to note is this little green button here that everybody misses. You can share this quote with your insured, right? That email address that you provided at the very beginning of the process will create an account for them, either here, pre-bind, because you've sent this to them, or post-bind after the policy's been bound, so that they can go in, they can download policy documents, and they can catch up on payments if they're late, right? So those are the 2 options that it is they have. But if you give that to them pre-bind, then they can actually put in their billing information remotely too, right? So it'll send it to that email address that you set up ahead of time. Quick point of reminder, we only sell through agents, so we're not going to use this to target your insureds or anything like that. We don't even sell direct. So put this in here, get it updated, make sure that your insured can get in and get access to this stuff so they can self-serve some too. But this will also give them an option to add those 5 photos for the Rainbow Rewards too, if they want to collect those and add them up on their end. So lots of really great stuff that we have done our best to think through everything for you and for your insured to make sure that this is the best restaurant product available. But we're humans. We are doing the best that we can for you. So let us know if you have any suggestions. Let us know if something could be better. We love to hear that kind of feedback, and we take it to heart. We work with our engineers and product team, and we're constantly making improvements to make this a better product for you. All right, so I think that's it.
I'm
Yay.
impressed, Jason.
You have to say that.
You did that all in one breath. That's amazing.
Yeah.
We had
Lots of
some great
practice.
questions in the chat.
No blinking and no breaths. That's how we do it.
No, it was like,
Yeah. I take a screenshot so that it just. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much. Y'all, it's a pleasure. I love doing these, so it's I'm honored. We did have lots of good questions too. Thank you, agents, for coming. Otherwise, I would just be talking to myself and it would be really awkward and weird. All right. Well, did we want to do any kind of outros? Please, Morgan. Yes.
Yeah, we do have one question from Janice, who asked about what is the agent commission percentage? I was gonna chat it, but go for it, Jason.
Yeah. So inevitably we get this question every once in a while. It really just depends, and I know that's not the answer that you're looking for. Instead, we would ask that you reach out to us directly, for a couple of reasons. Obviously, nobody wants to discuss finances. Well, most people don't want to discuss finances publicly, but then also, it really just kind of depends on how you meet us. We have a lot of different arrangements. We like to think that we pay really great commissions across the board to all of our partners, but it really just kind of depends on where it is that you meet us. And sometimes if you're working through an aggregator, if you're working through a network, we don't even pay your commissions. So we may not even know the answer, right? So we ask that you reach out to us directly on that one, if you don't mind, please.
Cool. Thank you, Jason.
And Morgan, I think Mo had a follow-up question on branding agency logos on quotes, which is how does that work?
That is a great question, Mo. It sort of depends on what you like. If you have anyone in your agency that does any sort of like marketing design stuff for you, then I would absolutely just be like, hey, help me do this. But if not, it's usually fairly easy to do this. If you have any sort of like PDF sort of like editing system, however you like upload it into your computer, usually it lets you just kind of stick a picture in there. If you have a picture of that logo that's on your computer, usually you can just sort of like insert it. But if not, feel free to chat in or email us, and I'm happy to provide some more guidance.
That's all, Morgan. I don't know how to do that.
It'll get to me. That's what I mean.
Branding is very important. I speak that language. It's very important for your business. That's a great question, Mo.
And Brian asked, what are agency commissions on average?
You're killing me, Brian. Email me.
Listen.
Jason at Use Rainbow. I'll tell you all you want to know when we're not talking publicly.
Yeah. We might take off a point though for the double question.
Yeah, so don't email Naomi, in other words.
Bite the cookie, give it back.
Totally.
Well, thank you all so much for coming today. Delight as always. Brian, you're not even appointed.
Okay, well then yes.
Okay, well, then you
email
have
me
to
and we
reach
will
out to
talk
Jason
about
now.
it. You
Yes.
you get 100% commission. How about that?
You get 100% of what we're paying. I mean,
Thank you all. This was
This
it's
is
always
a
a
great
delight, a
group.
pleasure. Yeah, I'm sure that we'll see you all around. We are looking forward to hearing from you, and have a lovely rest of your day.
Bye, everybody.
thank you so much.
Bye, all.